Back-to-back 50-point games for Bernard King.
Jordan trying to shake off Starks. Oh, what a move by Jordan!
Here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win!
Through the 1970s, the times kept on changing as lightning-quick guards like Tiny Archibald and Calvin Murphy shaped and baked opponents with their fancy footwork while finding new ways to get to the hoop. But the master of improvisation was the man known as the Pistol, Pete Maravich.
Just say the name Maravich or the nickname Pistol Pete, and the mind's eye recalls the flying hair, the floppy socks, the incredible moves. He was box office, and he was a metaphor for what the sport of basketball can be.
Keep your eye on his hands as Pete Maravich demonstrates some pretty slick ball control.
You know, your dad is one of the best players ever pick up a basketball.
You're looking at Pistol Pete Maravich, in my opinion, the greatest playmaker playing today.
I'll probably have to say Pistol Pete.
Flying hair at the top, rolled down socks at the bottom, a 6'5" enigma in between.
Pete was blessed with a great amount of ability, natural athletic ability. Pete could do a lot of amazing things with the basketball. He was really a showman. I mean, Pete would go out there, put on a show. I mean, that's what he wanted to do. That's how he looked at himself, as a showman.
He transcended what basketball has become, which is a game that is as much entertainment as it is sport. And he was the penultimate entertainer.
A true entertainer. And I think he looked at entertainment more than basketball.
He was an entertainer at heart, and his ability to pass the ball and dribble the ball and do outlandish things on the court, which sometimes even overruled the game.
Played the game with a tremendous flair.
As flamboyant as any player I've ever seen with the basketball, and an entertainer. Maybe the best entertainer our game's ever seen.
I played for the fans. There was no doubt about that.
Famous for his playground moves and circus shots, Pete always added his own special touch of showmanship.
Pete was a showman.
He was a showman. You see that move? Do you see this? And so we were all just sitting there in amazement.
I mean, he was uncanny.
Unstoppable. It was as if you had melted down all 12 Harlem Globetrotters and then filled up this skinny 6'6" white frame with everything they had.
Pete had a fire about him that he wanted to be, this globetrotter type of guy.
The Pistols doing it all. A great ball game.
Nobody handled the ball better than Pistol. But he wasn't just satisfied with that. He had to put a little show on.
Pistol was like a guy, the game was boring to him, so he had to create things to keep him interested. Just coming down, making a nice pass, he had to go through his legs or 2 times around his back.
And catch it behind, that's one.
Beautiful.
The things that I did with the basketball, behind the back pass between the legs, things of that nature. Takes in reaction drills, quickness drills to improve your quickness, your coordination, your confidence, and your overall ability to handle a basketball.
Knowing the impact that he made on the game, my dad probably has to move out of the way. AI's probably got more out of the way. Kobe's probably got more out of the way. But Pistol Pete was unbelievable, man.
If you go back and you look at film of what this guy was actually doing with the basketball.
Watch him for a moment, and then try to conjure the right word. While you watch, remember what you're seeing happened more than a quarter century ago.
That ball looks like a part of his hand. And I said, he must spend a lot of time dribbling and dribbling.
How many hours a day would you spend with a basketball, bouncing and shooting, and say when you're 12 years old?
When I was 12, Don, during the summer months, about 8 hours a day, between 8 and 8.5, and during the winter months, about 4 hours a day.
I've been in the right place.
It was like the ball was an extension of him.
I dribbled so much, so many different ways. learning new types of drills to dribble with one ball, with two balls, do what I call stutter dribble, back over like that.
Try that again. If I'm guarding you.
You got your hand there.
You know, and you never see a white boy doing that on top of it. This is a white boy I'm talking about. This ain't a brother, but he must have had some brother in him because he was a dazzler.
Pete Maravich was so far ahead of his time, he was 10 plays ahead of everyone else.
Greatness. That was Pete Maravich. Did he just do what I think he did?
But watch again, for this is the gift he left us with. Have you found the right word yet?
That was sweet. Very deceptive pass. Usually on a 3-on-1 situation, you start out throwing the ball in this direction like you're going to throw it out to this man coming in, and actually what happens is it goes the other way.
What's the right word? Magic? When such magic was usually found only in the confines of the barnstorming Globetrotters. His name was Pete Maravich.
He was magic, wasn't he? And he probably brought the term showtime to the lexicon of the NBA.
Pete Maravich was showtime before there was showtime.
You know, the no-look passes, the dribble the ball and then pat it with one hand. That's where I saw that from Pistol Pete. That's where I got it from.
He faked with his right hand like he was going to the player on his left, and he just whiffed it, and then he hit it, tipped it with his left hand to the player on his right. He went in for a layup, and the officials called traveling. And Pete went crazy. He went to the official and said, "You can't call that. You've never seen that move before."
Passes that would bring you out of your seat.
Always doing something different with the basketball. You never knew what he was going to do, but you knew it was going to be exciting.
You were never quite sure what he was going to do with the ball in the open court because he had 1,000 moves to either shoot it or pass it.
A great passer, great shooter.
Just has so much razzle-dazzle in his game. He was just hard to guard.
Give him that much room and he'll burn you. My head is in a bad place.
He just took your breath away. The way he dribbled, the way he went behind his back, the way he passed, scoring 44 points a game with no three-point line.
Yeah, you look at the three-point line now, and I think he would have had a lot of 60, 50-point games.
Pete was doing a lot of things that had us all sitting around saying, "Wow, man, look at that guy. Whoa, did you see that pass?"
He would pass the ball through the eye of a needle. And the wrist passes, the fake behind the back, the way he would fake passes that the entire world would react to, and then he'd pull it back and stroke the shot.
He could handle the ball, he could shoot the ball.
He was a pure shooter.
And able to shoot the way he can shoot. In different angles, I mean, he could flip the ball with his left hand over here and it'd hit the board and shoot him right in the basket.
Really transitioned from college, from LSU into the NBA, be able to score the basketball and be able to pass like that, and he was just having a whole bunch of fun.
He could shoot it from deep. He could take it in. He could wrap it around. I mean, he was doing stuff that you never saw.
Boy, he'd make you look foolish out there if you didn't know what you were doing.
And any time you get a chance to break out the old Pete Maravich.
What Pistol would do, he would take the ball and set it behind his back, catch the ball, and shoot.
I asked him once if he'd ever played a perfect game. He said no, but I'm going to. So some night I'm going to take 40 shots and I'm going to make them all.
And he still didn't think he was playing well enough when he scored like 60 or 50. So a great player like that, you know, echoes greatness. So he's great.
Pete loved the game. You know, he loved the game. And he was a lovely person. I mean, a lot of people didn't know Pete, but there's nothing Pete wouldn't do for you individually. They asked him in terms of helping you any way you can, financially, in terms of basketball, clinics, or whatever necessary, he would do this. And I just thought he was a great talent.
He used his basketball as a form of self-expression, and one of the real leaders in bringing basketball into this sort of area of artistry. It was like his form of art.
And there were many, many occasions when people came out to see him play basketball and do the things that no one did at that time that they now take for granted in basketball, whether it was one touch or the peripheral vision or the drive to the hole and slam dunky, and all the things everybody talks about, Pete Maravich was the forerunner of.
People still, to this day, can't do it. It was beautiful to watch.
forever known simply grandly as Pistol.
I guess it just shows he was a prodigy. He was a sensation. I guess there's never been another Mozart. There's never been another John Lennon or Elvis. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe there'll never be another Pistol because there just can't be.
Your dad was a basketball player and a coach yourself, and he was kind of like a guy you really looked up to.
Well, my dad was my hero. There's no doubt about it. I wouldn't be in the position I am today if it hadn't been for my father.
After a short professional career in the 1940s, Press moved on to coaching high schools and small colleges.
He was very precise in everything he did. He knew what he was doing, and he knew what he wanted. And you played for him that way, and you practiced for him that way.
Everybody thought Press Maravich as this mock scientist about basketball. I mean, he was so involved in the game, you know, about the fundamental parts of the game and how it should be played.
Already a stepfather when his firstborn son Pete arrived in 1947, Press Maravich charted a course straight to the gym.
Press was talking one time about how some people are born to play a piano, some people are born to be painters, some people are born to be writers. He said that he thought Pete was born to play basketball because he had basketball genes.
When you started playing basketball, your dad had a particular strategy that he used on you to make a hunger for basketball develop in you.
There's no doubt about it.
Pete would come on the court in the backyard and say, "Let me shoot, give me the ball." And Press would say, "No, go back in the house, you're too small." And Press said on one occasion he left the ball on the court and went back in the house and looked back through the kitchen window, and he saw that Pete had slipped onto the court, picked up the ball, and started shooting. And Press says, "I knew at that moment I had him."
My dad would come home from practice. He would shoot every day. I'd be by the window watching him, and I'd try to go out and shoot with him, but he would just tell me, "You're too young, you can't reach the goal." And I'd go back in, sometimes crying or whatever. One day my mother said, "Go out to him, Pete. Let's try it one more time." I said, "Oh, he won't let me shoot, Mom." He said, "Well, go out one more time." So I went out. I was looking around the corner. My dad said, "Come on out over here." So he let me. He said, "I'll let you shoot, but I want to teach you first." And he put my hands on the ball, and then I shot. And that was it.
It was like his dad was dangling something out in front of him and would intrigue him, and Pete would get interested in it, and then his dad would take another step and then another step until he was hooked and he was obsessed by the game of basketball.
When he was 12 years old, he opened the window to his room, jumped out of the window, and spent the night in the woods cuddling a basketball. When Press was at the wheel of the car, Pete would sit in the back seat by the window, put the window down, and as Press drove slowly, Pete would dribble the ball.
In bed at night, take the ball and just repeat his shooting motion over and over again and say, fingertip control, backspin, follow through, over and over and over, just so he would get a perfect rotation on the ball.
I used to take the ball to bed with me. I'd sleep. I'd sit on the bed and shoot and say three things. While after my mother tucked me in and said she loved me, I would say fingertip control, backspin, and follow through. I would sneak out the window during thunderstorms and play in a muddied area. I used to sneak out my back window. I'd go to this little spot where there was a mud hole. It was kind of a real hard mud, and I'd start dribbling the ball as the mud and everything splashed up on me, and literally scared to death because of the thunder and lightning, because I felt like if I could dribble in that mud and that water and everything else, control it, I could certainly do it on a court. I would take my ball to the movie and sit on the aisle watching the movie and dribble. I used to take the basketball to bed with me. I slept with the basketball till I was about 13 years old. I would get in bed and I'd lay in the bed for 1 hour before I ever went to sleep, and I would repeat three things: fingertip control, backspin, follow through. Even though I loved my parents, basketball meant much more to me. Out of ignorance. Even though he was handing this dream down to me, the dream was to later on really become a nightmare.
Now, I mean, that's an eerie connection with basketball.
In 1956, the Maravich family moved to South Carolina, where Press went to coach Clemson. While he built a reputation in the ACC, Pete was building one of his own, playing on the high school varsity as a 12-year-old.
In 1959, he threw a pass between his legs, and the crowd went berserk. It was a small crowd, but they went nuts. And at that time, something clicked in him, very much like any entertainer.
When practice was over at high school, he would stay another hour or two, just ball handling and shooting hook shots from half court, stuff like that.
When I was 7 years old, my dad sat me down and he said, Pete, if you'll listen to me, you might be able to get a scholarship in basketball because we can't pay your way. And maybe you not only get a scholarship, but maybe you'll go to the pro level and you'll play on a team that wins a world championship. And you'll make $1 million playing basketball. And they'll give you a big diamond ring and it'll have your name on it and say world champions. And to a 7-year-old, my eyes lit up. And I said, Dad, that's what I want. He said, if you let me teach you, you just commit. You dedicate your life to basketball, and that's all you have to do. And you'll live happily the rest of your lives. And that's what I did. I became a human basketball. I was a basketball android.
While Pete led Broughton to the state semifinals in 1965, Press, in his first year as North Carolina State's head coach, won the ACC tournament. Father and son stood together on the brink of a dream.
Press was determined to coach Pete. All of us who knew Press knew that that was his lifetime goal, to coach Pete in college. But unfortunately, he didn't hit those books as hard as he should have when he was a young man. Consequently, he didn't quite make the grade on the SATs.
While Pete spent a year at a nearby prep school, his father let it be known in the college coaching fraternity that a package deal was possible. He didn't have to wait long.
I still hold the record for the All-Star game. I scored 47 points in the East-West High School All-Star game back in 1965. But still there, it hasn't been broken, and some great players have come through there.
Press was making around $12,500 head coach at NC State, and I think he got around $15,000 to go to LSU. And Pete wasn't accepted at NC State, so both of them, they go to LSU, and then it's history from there.
A reporter came up to me after the game, and I used to shoot the basketball from down here because I was too weak to shoot it from up here. And so I used to take the ball and take it and release it like this. And this reporter saw me and he says, well, it looks like this guy is drawing a pistol. So I used to take the ball and go down like this and then shoot like this. And it resembled to this person, the guy drawing. So he said, yeah, it looks like he's shooting, with a pistol. So the next day he wrote an article and he said, Pistol Pete.
They called him Pistol Pete. College basketball had never seen a scoring machine like Pete Maravich.
Pistol Pete Maravich of LSU. Sporting floppy socks and a flashy style, Maravich averaged over 44 points per game. But more impressively, he created a hoops frenzy at a school long known only for football.
One of the toughest sells in America was to sell basketball in Louisiana.
It wasn't until Pete showed up on campus and started playing that word spread like wildfire, that here was a bona fide superstar.
As soon as he touched the ball, people went to the edge of their seat.
LSU was 3-20 the year before he joined the varsity. And suddenly he was drawing people all over the place. It was like a phenomenon, almost like a Elvis Presley kind of situation where people would just go in droves to see this kid and what they called showtime, which surrounded him.
I loved him at LSU. Socks flopping, he had flavor. I'm like, wait a minute, where this guy grew up? And he had that something.
People of Pete Maravich's generation all wanted to play basketball like he did. Guys were in the low-cut sneakers and the trim white socks and the tight-fitting pants. And Pete showed up with his hair flopping all around, and he had these ugly old high sweat socks that just flopped all over the floor.
The pistol and his papa, the pistol and his papa. The pistol's done and gone and shot his way up to the top. He's played his way into the heart of almost everyone. And down in Louisiana, the pistol is Top Gun.
Pistol Pete Maravich was maybe my all-time favorite college player. I can remember I was covering Kentucky when he was a freshman, and the students would come and watch the freshman games. Back then, you couldn't play varsity basketball until you were a sophomore. But they would come and watch Pete play on the freshman team and then leave.
You can't watch Maravich film and say, I'm going to do that. To do what Maravich did with the basketball is a gift from God.
As soon as he touched the ball, people went to the edge of their seat. And there was this great rumor that was circulating that he had developed a shot that he was going to dribble down the court and right before the basket, give it a hard dribble and the ball on the bounce would go in the basket.
Press Maravich decided he was going to create the perfect basketball machine, and he came awfully close. He's consumed with strategy, tactics, the psychology of basketball. Everything he sees goes into the hopper, and what comes out is Pistol Pete. He decides early on that he is going to give his son to the game.
Playing for his father, Press, at Louisiana State University from 1968 through 70, the Pistol completed his amazing career as college basketball's most prolific scorer. With his floppy socks and dazzling ball handling, Pete Maravich put pizzazz into the game of basketball.
Coach Press Maravich watches his amazing 19-year-old boy Pete as the 6'5" sophomore shoots his way to the NCAA scoring title.
His days in Baton Rouge with his father Press coaching were halcyon times, setting scoring and attendance records.
Averaging 44 points a game in his sophomore and junior years. But scoring was only part of the Pistols' arsenal.
We felt like his ball handling and his assist abilities overshadowed his scoring abilities. And that sounds crazy when a guy averages 40-some points a game. So we made the decision that we were going to play him straight up and guard the heck out of the rest of the people.
Coach Rupp didn't think that Pete could beat us all by himself, and so we would play him one-on-one. The 6 games that we played against each other in college, I think Pete averaged over 50 points a game.
Averaged more than 43 points a game, setting an all-time major college record with shots that even amazed his father.
Those of us that were close to Press could tell how proud he was of Pete, and behind Pete's back he would just say glorious things about Pete. He would never tell Pete that he was that great. Part of what Pete was searching for was his father's approval, and I don't think he got it very often.
He was so obsessed by the boy and his talent that he would take the films home and would play them over and over and over and over and over again all night.
They had strong wills, short fuses, and on the court at timeouts, they'd chew each other out. Press usually won, but Pete would go out after a timeout and do something so spectacular, the old man would throw up his hands and say, you know, what can I do?
I remember one game in particular during a timeout where Press said, we're going to do this, and Pete said, well, why don't we try that? And he basically ended up, you know, smacked him on top of the head and said, Pete, he said, I'm the coach, you're the player, we're going to do it the way I say to do it.
As he entered his senior year, Maravich was just under 700 points short of Oscar Robertson's NCAA scoring record.
More and more people wanted to be around him, wanted to be a part of him, wanted to talk to him, wanted to get his autograph. Just wanted to get as close to him as they could.
He really started becoming a loner. He quit going to class. He basically, for all practical purposes, moved out of the dorm, just wanted to be by himself.
Maravich scored over 50 points 28 times in 3 All-American seasons for the Tigers. But his NCAA record of 3,667 points is one statistic that may stand forever.
Well, what I do every year in my first notes column of the year is I just remind people of what Pete Maravich did, that he averaged 44 points a game for 3 seasons. And I don't think people understand what that number is, and that's a number that will never be approached ever again in college basketball.
I think without a doubt, he was the greatest offensive player ever to play the game. If you want to break his record, that was with no three-point shot. All you have to do is score 15 three-pointers every game you play your entire college career, and you'll break Pistol's record. No one's ever going to do it.
Only 2 players have led the NCAA in scoring for 3 consecutive years, and that's Oscar Robertson and Pete Maravich.
The game in 1970, where he breaks Oscar Robertson's record, is really anticipated as the crowning achievement in the career of both father and son.
What's astonishing is that we're 30-plus years past Pistol's career, and no one since has been able to approximate what he was able to do.
Now they've added 10 to 12, 15 more games per year, and nobody is ever going to come remotely close to his records. What a touch. 44 points per game.
To give you an idea of how good that is, second place is Austin Carr, Notre Dame, at 34.6. Maravich just blew away the field.
Pete was the best college basketball player of all time. He didn't play his freshman year. He averaged like 38 points a game in college.
The legendary following that Pete Maravich has is the truest testament to how great he was, because this was a guy who made SEC basketball what it is.
You know, in college, Pistol and I fought for the scoring leader in the country, and all 3 years I was second to Pistol.
And I did a lot of things in college. I've set something like around 50 basketball records from high school, college, and pro.
And I used to make excuses. The only reason Pistol scored more than me is because his dad coached him and so on and so forth, until I got to play against him.
But I'm the leading scorer. I averaged over 44 points a game for a 3-year period.
Goodness gracious. It's hard to describe somebody that was about 6'6", 6'7", handle the ball as well or better than myself.
I'm the leading scorer of all time in college basketball. It'll be broken someday.
You were right there at the top. You had all in fact, a lot of your scoring records you set there at LSU still stand.
I got a chance to play with him for the first time in the high school All-American game in Memphis. And it's tough. You trying to play your game and you're watching him.
You better get your own fucking army, pal. Where you going, you dizzy motherfucker, you? You motherfucker, you!
But he said, what are you going to do when you grow up, Pistol Pete? And I said, well, I'm going to play pro basketball. I'm going to be on a team that wins a world championship, get a diamond ring, and make $1 million.
His legend continued to grow. He was ready to take his act to the ultimate stage, and in 1970, he made his much-anticipated NBA debut.
And you invested literally your life into basketball, and you became at that time probably the first $1 million contract ever signed in basketball.
I was one of them. In 1970, I had 3 offers. I could have went with the ABA, I could have went with the NBA, and I was the first white man ever to be offered $1 million contract with the Harlem Globetrotters.
We are most happy to announce that Pete Maravich will play professional basketball for the Atlanta Hawks.
Outmaneuvering the ABA's Carolina Cougars, the Hawks signed the collegiate sensation for 5 years at nearly $2 million. But it wasn't only money that set Maravich apart.
When I first came here and announced the starting lineups the first time, I got about 3 death threats because the people were complaining because I just mentioned black guys. Well, those are guys who were starting.
But once Maravich arrived, the color green became the dominant issue.
My reaction was, thank God for Pete Maravich. Over the 6 years that I was in the NBA, they told all of us that if you were 6'5" and under, you can't make any money. So at the time, Bill Russell and Will Chamberlain was the only 2 guys that were making money. When Pete came in, he changed the whole pay structure.
And I went into the pros and I signed the largest contract in the history of sports. Not basketball, sports.
Drafted by Atlanta in 1970, Pete Maravich entered the pros as a high-dollar, high-profile player whose flamboyant talent belied the pressures that were building within.
After being selected 3rd in the 1970 draft, Maravich displayed his skills during his early days in Atlanta.
He went to the NBA as the perfect franchise savior, but as a rookie in Atlanta, he quickly became an outcast.
The only problem with Pete Maravich was the 4 other guys. He just didn't relate to the rest of the team.
Loved by the fans, but rejected by his veteran teammates, seen as a showboat.
So you're playing against superhuman beings, and since the competition is so great, the players are much smarter, they're keener, they're aware of what you're going to do. You can do your, as you call your thing out on the court, but you got to be careful not to do the repetitious type of stuff that you can do in college because of the fact that this won't work in the pros.
Speaking of your thing, you do things a little different than most other players that have come out of college in recent years. Do you think this is the coming trend in basketball, or do you think it's just you?
No, I think this is the coming trend, definitely. I think that the players are getting much bigger, much stronger, and they're definitely getting taller. The guards are getting faster. They can handle the ball better. I think that the 70s will be the type of basketball that will be played with the common behind-the-back dribble, the common behind-the-back pass, common between the legs, and different moves while in the air with the ball.
He had 250 players in the league that he was going to compete against. They were going to try to knock him down every time he put the ball between his legs or did something that was flamboyant.
Pistol was way ahead of the game. Pistol got the reputation of being a hot dog because he was so talented that he was bored with the game.
People would point fingers at him. Well, he's too selfish. He takes too many shots. That's why they don't win.
He was the ultimate outsider. He was the great white player in a black man's sport. He was an individualist in a team game.
This is a real world, and you run into some problems. I mean, you just didn't know how to handle big money. You were a country boy, and all of a sudden, you had the big money, you just couldn't handle it.
Well, I tried to fill myself up with things that everybody tries to fill themselves up with. I've driven everything from a Rolls Royce to BMW to Mercedes to Porsches, you name it. I've gone anywhere I wanted to, vacation anytime I wanted. I used to carry $3,000 to $5,000 in cash around with me all the time.
With teammates, he was aloof. With opposing players like myself, he was aloof. You just knew of the legend of Pistol Pete, but you didn't know Pete Maravich.
There was a wild streak in him, and you could tell it. The PR man at LSU said, you know something, if he doesn't change, something's going to happen. He'll never live to be 30.
He got wrecked in the cocktail lounge, and he's ranting and raving, and of course he jumps up and cracks his head on the table. Splits his head wide open.
I remember waking up early in the morning to a phone call and heard the girl that I was with talking, and she said, that was my husband on the phone. And I said, your husband? She said, yes, I'm separated, and so is the other girl. Well, I immediately hollered upstairs for Pete, finally got him to wake up. I said, man, we got to get out of here. So we got our clothes on, and we're running, and we're starting to go out the front door, and we see this car pulling up, or I think it was a pickup truck actually, with 2 guys in it. So we go running, and it was on the 2nd floor already. So we open this window and we're looking down, and it's about a 10-foot, 12-foot drop to the ground. And so we didn't have any choice. Boom, we're out there.
Despite his national following and 24-point average, Maravich wasn't adding wins to Atlanta's effort to upgrade. Although they had reached the Western Division Finals the year before he arrived, the Hawks never won a playoff round in his 4 seasons. It seemed that without his father to guide him, Maravich was drifting.
Pistol idolized Press Maravich, so you better be very careful and never once say, well, now, you shouldn't do it that way. What if Press had told him to do it that way?
And there would be points where he would go, 3, 4, 5 games, passing up wide open shots when he should have shot the ball.
It was more management's handling of the situation than it was the personal relationship between the players. Nobody could tell Pete anything. If Pete did something, then they would take care of it.
If he would have been more disciplined within his own life, not just in basketball, he'd have been way ahead of the game.
But at this point, this was a troubled, angry, difficult to coach Pete Maravich, who also would take out his sorrows, in alcohol.
I don't think Pistol could ever drink. In my opinion, 2 beers, and you have to get Pistol off the wall.
He was a very carefree guy, probably drank more than he should have during his playing career.
In February of 1974, Maravich boiled over after being ejected from a game in Houston for arguing with an official.
In about the middle of the night, I get a call. I need to go up in the hallway where he's staying, very frustrated about his game, about a lot of things. Next day, everything was fine, except he was a little bit wild on the plane, too. And I had no other choice but to suspend him.
Cotton came to me at that point and said, we got to start thinking about making a move here. Well, I started doing that very quietly, and, it was very, very interesting. There was no interest.
Interest did come from the New Orleans Jazz when the NBA expanded to 18 teams. The Pistol was going home.
There was no bigger draw, certainly not in Louisiana, than Pete Maravich. As long as Pete was here, they always called him the Louisiana Purchase.
Pete then says, what did you get for me? And I told him, trying not to be too elated, but I reeled off the picks we were going to get, laid the whole package. And there was a little pause, and Pete said, is that all?
And he was traded to the expansion New Orleans Jazz for 2 years' worth of draft choices.
Maravich was traded to the expansion New Orleans Jazz. He was once again playing in Louisiana. And over the next few years, Maravich would blossom as one of the league's top scorers, while continuing to delight the fans with his unique flair.
What he did in the second year that I had him, changed his socks, shaved his beard, put a new number on, threw bounce passes, played defense on guys that if you put him on the right guy, played the game of basketball. It was the first year he made first-team All-Pro, and he deserved it.
2-on-1, Goodrich and Maravich back and forth. Goody for the layup, and Maravich for the tip. Well, now it's Maravich. Maravich, yes. Right around Ford. Quick first step by Maravich, got him past. Maravich. The Pistol has hit 2 in a row. Maravich fires. Got it right back. Maravich all alone as they work that play. Fires it out of there to Maravich. Under to Robinson. Let's see if Maravich tries to get it right back. He does. Maravich from the side. Jumper over Carr. Bang. 16.3. Maravich. Little one-hander. Dainty as can be. That's Merriweather, the center with it. Maravich to Griffin. Griffin looked like he walked with it. No call. Missed the shot. James tipped it in. We're tied at 75. First foul on Eberhard. Third on Detroit in the fourth quarter. Now he'll wait for his teammates to join him and set things up. Robinson has daylight. Good off glass. And the Jazz have a 1-point lead. Now here comes Maravich in a hurry. Watts on his left. Pistol pulls up for the jumper. Yes! Money on Maravich. 3:05 remaining. Maravich from 20. 94 to 91. Maravich has equaled his average. He has 28. Saying that Maravich might be on the trading block. drew an angry response from Pete, who suggested that perhaps the Jazz should trade their general manager, Louis Chappelle, rather than him. 5 seconds, 4. They get it up court, and this is going to do it. Robinson's going to stuff it to end the game.
I can remember when Pete got traded from Atlanta, where he started his career, over to New Orleans when the team went down there in his expansion team. And they had never won a game. They were 0-14, and they were the worst team in the league. And Otto Moore was the center. They couldn't do anything, but Pete was just lighting them up. And the Portland Trailblazers, we go in there. We had a team, and it was not the championship team, but we had a good enough team. And we were pounding them early, way up at halftime. And Pete, in the second half, just takes over. And he goes absolutely wild. He's playing 1 against 5, and he's up and down the court shooting jumpers, hooks, full court behind the back passes through guys' legs. He's just everything. And at the very last play of the game, we're up 1, and Pete dribbles up. 4 of our guys go chase him because they know he's not going to pass it, and he's falling out of bounds, and he shoots it as he's tumbling over the row of fans in the corner.
Literally.
And I am standing underneath the basket waiting for the last rebound of the game. We're going to win the game, and they're not going to win a game ever, the New Orleans Jazz, and the ball swishes.
As great a shooter as he was, Pete's enduring legacy was his mastery of the basketball. He had an endless repertoire of trick shots and fancy moves.
Just regular shot, regular jump shot.
Regular jump shot. That's his money shot. He's the current NBA scoring leader, was the leader last season. Bubbles with a regular jump shot.
Regular.
Regular swish, Bubbles. Another whistle, another letter on Bubbles Hawkins.
2-hand scoop right here.
2-hand scoop. Regular jump shot. And makes. He'll put you away with that one.
Regular jump shot.
It's got the advantage back. He can close out Hawkins here. That's it. That will do it. Pistol Pete Maravich, the NBA scoring leader, advances to the second round with a win over Bubbles Hawkins.
All right, take one dribble, throw it behind your back, catch you with the right hand, lay it on the opposite side.
Okay. That's easy for him to say. This is a Pistol Pete specialty. Round the back, through the legs, up from the other side. When he threw in 68 against New York, Maravich goes to a little dip shot. And a similar shot earlier.
Both feet down here.
Letter for McAdoo. Right on down. Big guy pulled the string, and so Maravich advances to the quarterfinals, and Bob McAdoo of the Knicks goes out. A lot of problems.
I got it.
Letter, Gervin. The Pistols also gotten some people with that little scoop shot. He takes shots other people haven't tried before. There's a good example as the second letter goes up on George Gervin. And that's a tough one. These guys haven't done that before. And 3 letters are up on George Gervin.
Jump shot.
Gervin takes control.
Thanks, Al.
This competition coming to you from the Omni International Complex in Atlanta.
Off the backboard.
That is a tough shot. As tough a shot as there is. Straight away off the glass. Letter, Maravich. And so we're even.
Off the backboard.
The eventual winner of the horse competition will receive a check for $15,000.
Jump shot.
Letter. So the pistol is now a letter from elimination as George Gervin is filling the basket up.
Oh, yeah, all day. That's it? That's it. Jump shot.
One letter from elimination has the shooting advantage back, and he's going to sit down again.
Letter.
And for a second time, the sit-down shot puts a number, a letter up on George Gervin.
All right. Let's stand on this side of the basket. Jump to the opposite side and bank it in.
You see those 4 letters up for each man.
Gotcha.
The next one that goes up sends the loser out and the winner on to the semifinals. And so, NBA scoring champion George Gervin of San Antonio goes out, and Pistol Pete Maravich is a semifinalist in the horse competition.
But the Pistol could still deliver Showtime performances. Both guns were blazing on February 25th, 1977.
When you can use Walt Frazier and the Knickerbockers like your private tool.
And of course, the Pistol. He wears number 7 this year. Maravich, the captain of the club, and averaging 29.8 points a ball game. That almost gets a steal at midcourt. Here's a Maravich bomb, and it's good. The Pistol, who is about set to negotiate a new contract with New Orleans, hits and scores. 7 points for Pistol. After the game, the Knicks have a charter flight back to New York. Here's a Maravich shot in the lane. It's good.
Well, the Knicks having a tough time defending against Pistol Pete right
Going to the line for the second time. He is 1 for 1. That's the first foul on Monroe. Red Holzman is screaming at Don Murphy. 3:50 left in quarter number 1. Pete Maravich. Good. Maravich in his 7th year from LSU.
Boy, he is an offensive machine.
He is basically a defensive forward, so the Pistol lets it fly, and he hits. No shot is too long for Maravich. Earlier this year, we had a shootout between Maravich and Monroe in a game at the Garden. First time the Jazz was in. Oh, there's a foul on Beard. Pistol Pete really played Butch like a fiddle that time. So was fouled by Butch Beard. We've got 1:43 left in the quarter. Well, that's really something. 17 of 27 for Pistol Pete. And Maravich to the foul line. That was his 18th point. And Maravich takes the rebound away from Lonnie Sheldon up to Coleman. Score it. Maravich. Boy, he's got all kinds of moves. What move doesn't this guy have, Cal?
Well, he can do it all. I don't know how you stop a guy like that.
Pistol fires. Oh, come on, come on. Here's Maravich. They got it to the guy they want. Pistol in and out of the lane. Here's his good. A 21-point lead.
Now the Knicks have given Dean Memminger the task of trying to contain Pete Maravich. Nobody else has been able to do anything with him so far.
Well, what do you say? Another steal. Oh, the turnovers are killing the Knicks. Kelly. Joe Mulaney doing a fine job in Buffalo. Maravich with a incredible, absolutely incredible 29 points. There. Last night it was the third quarter that was so bad. Bo Howard. Back on January 11th in the third quarter at Portland, they were down by 34. Here's the shot by Pistol. He's good. Maravich said something to Tiki Burton. Tiki is picked off here, and the Pistol hits.
Now defensively against Pistol, but nothing seems to work.
Back to the Pistol, goes on a drive right to the basket. It is good, and he's fouled, and he has hit for the highest number of points of any player against the Knicks this year. He's got 41. 10 points for Shelton. Here's Maravich dribbling through that press. He's going to go in and drive, shoot on the rim. It's good, and he was fouled. And Pistol ran right over top. A cameraman perched at courtside. Maravich still working for shots. Here goes the Pistol. Double team. Score it. Maravich now with 48 points. The Pistol firing for 56. He's got it. Here they go, and he gets a layup to hit 60.
That's a hard job today.
Here he uses a pick and scores again. And look at his teammates rooting for him. Look at Coleman. Coleman leaped into the air when he scored. 65 for the Pistol. He's 6 right now. Here's a basket for him if he can convert. 68 for Maravich. And a steal. Look at him fight for this ball. The Pistols doing it all. A great ball game. The incredible game by Pete Maravich tonight. 27 field goals, 14 free throws for 68 points. The highest score ever produced by a guard in the NBA. And there have been some fantastic guards who have played basketball in this league.
He just went off that night. It was the most amazing thing that I'll ever remember seeing as a player.
Pistol fires. Oh, come on. 68 for Maravich.
Only Will Chamberlain and Elgin Baylor had ever scored more in a game.
The victories were few, but the crowds were once again enormous.
I remember walking down Bourbon Street one day, and a shoe shine kid came up and he says, "Can I shine your shoes?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" So he shined my shoes, and I gave him $300. And I kept walking on, and the kid said, "Excuse me." I said, "Yes, son." He said, "You think you'll be walking back this way this week again?" So really, I really did have it what I thought was all. I had all the success, all the fame, all the popularity. I was on Sports Illustrated cover 4 or 5 times, and had everything I dreamed of. You see, from a very early age, Ben, I thought that if I could just get that success and sit by my pool, twinkle my toes in the water, and hold my little drink, everything would just work out fantastic.
After leading the league with a 31-point average that season, Maravich and the Jazz were in the hunt for the 1978 playoffs when Pete was brought down.
The outlet pass came to Pete at midcourt and took one bounce behind his back and then raised his leg and flipped it through his legs, perfect, down at the other end to Aaron James for a layup.
And when he did, he came down oddly on the knee, and you could hear the crack like a rifle shot along the first few rows of the stadium.
He had to have knee surgery, and it ended his season, and the injury probably was the main reason the Jazz never were able to stay in New Orleans, because I believe had they made the playoffs that year, it might have taken off to a point where the franchise wouldn't have moved and would have stayed in New Orleans.
In 1979, hindered by a knee brace, Maravich appeared in just 49 games, averaging 23 points before diminishing crowds. When the Jazz moved to Utah after the season, Maravich had worn out his welcome.
I think he was disillusioned after he got his knee hurt. His own alcoholism was at work. Alcoholism is a disease, and Pete had access to his drug of choice, and he had free time.
There was an unfortunate situation after the game in Seattle where he had over-imbibed and went to the wrong room and started knocking on the door, kicking in the door, and it was the wrong person. It wasn't his room.
Then it was decided it was best for Pete to move on, and he got together with the ownership and management of the team and worked out a settlement with his contract. He was waived and picked up by the Boston Celtics.
Joining the Celtics in January of 1980, Maravich came off the bench to help them post the best record in the NBA.
He totally impressed me coming in, because I thought he was mainly an offensive player. But he worked hard on the defensive end, and that totally blew me away.
If we didn't win those last couple games, we would not be in first place in the division. And Pistons just took over the game and shot us into the best record.
NBA people far more knowledgeable than I say that if Pete Maravich had gone to the Boston Celtics out of college, that the Celtics and Red Auerbach and the rest of that group would have made him into a team player, and he might have been the greatest player of all time.
After 10 brilliant seasons, Pete retired from the NBA in 1980.
Jersey was ceremoniously retired by the Jazz in December 1985.
Pete Maravich was a magician in a basketball uniform, a wizard in short pants. It wasn't only that he scored so many points, a record-breaking average of 44 a game in college at Louisiana State University, an impressive average of 24 a game in 10 professional seasons. It was the way he scored those points, the slick sleight of hand that made Pistol Pete a basketball original, that earned him a place last year in the Basketball Hall of Fame.
I'd like to thank also my wife and my two boys that are here tonight, Jason and Joshua, and my wife, Jackie. They mean so much to me.
Though he adored the spotlight, Pete Maravich was a quiet, sad man who for years, decades, had been desperate for some meaning to his life.
I've thought about suicide many times in my life. It would have been easy for me. I used to take my Porsche 135 miles an hour across a bridge called the Lake Pontchartrain, just to air myself out and air the car out. It had been so easy just to take that wheel and turn it to the right, just about 10 degrees, and it had been history for me. The day that I did get saved in 1982, basically I was contemplating suicide. I had been doing that for basically a year.
Why? I mean, why would a man whose name is a household word, I mean, who kids scream when he comes down the street, people pay money to come watch you do things with a basketball. I mean, why in the world would you be talking about blowing yourself away?
Well, because I think we're a society of getters and not givers. And I've gotten all my life. Of course, I worked for everything I had, but I thought that getting these things, all these things, would make me happy. And it did. I was temporarily happy. It's fleeting, momentary. It's happiness, but it's not true joy. It's not peace. What Jesus Christ talks about, it's not peace at all. And when he came into my life, he literally transformed me. I mean, totally, drastically. You see, I can only speak for my shoes. I can't speak for anybody else's. I got to run my race. I can't worry about this guy or this guy. I know what God's called me to do. He literally transformed me, inwardly and outwardly. And when he did that, I was in such awe of that. And I still am every day of my life. You know, as long as your heart's beating and you got a little breath left, we should be thankful.
In a lifelong search for stability, Maravich wandered into bizarre realms.
And I searched all through the 1970s for what meaning there was to life. I had to know the meaning. What was the meaning? And I got involved in all kind of different things. I was involved in yoga and TM. I was involved very heavily in ufology, philosophy. I was involved in different religions, Hinduism especially. I was involved in everything. But the thing about it is, none of it really satisfied me. They were just all brief interludes of satisfaction. Much like my life was brief interludes of just ego gratification, satisfaction.
Vitamins, fasting, being a vegetarian. He was always searching for some kind of peace that he couldn't find in basketball.
When he found his Christianity is when he found true happiness.
My early church life was absolutely probably zero. I was not raised in a Christian home.
More devoted to that than anything I've ever seen, basketball included.
Once he became a Christian, he would read his Bible hours at a time, every day.
What did you do? Did you go to a church or did you go to something? What did you do just to get your life changed?
Well, to make a long story short, it was just one night I went to bed after really just searching and searching and searching for years and years. And I was there, and many things came up into my mind that night. And the things that were coming up in my mind were sin. There was no doubt about it. I knew right from wrong. And yet I would continually, habitually fell into these things. Even when I would swear them off, make resolutions and everything, I would just keep going into it. This night, things kept coming up, all night long. And finally, I just cried out in my spirit. My wife laid next to me. She was not saved at the time. It was still dark. And I cried out to God and said, Lord, can you save me? Can you forgive me? Because I've done some of the dirtiest things in the world. My life has changed so dramatically that nothing, not 1,000 NBA championships, not 1,000 Hall of Fame rings, not $100 billion would I trade for my position where I am right now.
He tried to change his personality, and he tried to please so many people that he was a different person all the time. And when that happens, you eventually lose your identity. And that's what happened to Pistol at one point. He lost his identity, and because of it, things start falling apart for him.
I think he was searching for happiness, all the different things he went through. I mean, he loved the game, but I think it became a burden to him.
Do you realize that if you live to be 80 years old, you have only lived over a little over 700,000 hours? And half of that, 350,000 hours, is spent sleeping and watching television if you're the average person? I don't have much time left. And the time that I have, I'm giving to the Lord Jesus Christ. I'm giving it to Him because that's what I'm called to do. I'm not called to come up here. I'm not called to be nice and speak in generalities, and you might offend some people. That's fine. I heard a pastor say one time, Adrian Rogers, if you don't make them mad, sad, or glad, you haven't done your job. I feel compassion for people that I've never felt before. Everybody I meet, I feel for. Because you see, there is a heaven and there is a hell.
He was a great thinker. In other words, I used to talk to him about conceptualizing in basketball. He used to ask me, what do you mean by that? I said, you have to think 1, 2, maybe 3 patterns ahead of time what's going to happen.
Pete also helped his father find religion. Together, they continued their passion at the Pistols basketball camp in Clearwater, Florida.
He was ready to go at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he shut it down at 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning. So he was working 18 and 19-hour days, had a hand in every part of the camp.
He had a big salad bar, lots of watermelon, no soft drink, no ice cream, no sugar. That was the good diet for Pete. And we did that while he was at our camp those 5 years.
Then, in 1986, Pete learned that his father was diagnosed with cancer.
He was going to do everything humanly possible to try to cure Press. He did not leave Press's side. He was with his dad probably the last 6 months of his life, literally day and night.
He had some comfort about the fact that he was the one that had been used to bring Press to a place of peace in Press's life.
Press Maravich died on April 5th, 1987.
It was a casual pickup basketball game in a California church gymnasium. Pete Maravich was relaxing, doing what he loved the most.
There was much we never knew about Pete Maravich those precious few years we had him, but more than any one thing, it was what killed him that stunned us most.
Pistol Pete died Tuesday morning of a heart attack in Pasadena, California, stricken while playing a pickup basketball game in a local church.
I knew that he had really come through a difficult time in his life,
And there'd been a dramatic change in his life when he met Jesus Christ. And I really wanted to hear him tell that story, but I had not met him until that morning at 7 o'clock when we met at the gym to play basketball. I think he was going about half speed, but there was a move or two that he made that took our breath away.
We played about 3 games, and at that time, some of the guys wanted to get a drink of water, some went outside to get some fresh air, and before I knew it, it was just Dr. Dobson and Pete on the court, and I was underneath the basket rebounding for Pete as the two of them talked.
He said, you know, I've loved being here today. He said, I've really got to get back into basketball, even if it's pickup stuff like this. And I said, how do you feel today? And I promise you his last words to me were, I feel great. I just feel great. And I turned to walk away, and I don't know why, but I looked back at him for some reason, just in time to see him fall. And he fell hard. He didn't break his fall. I mean, his face hit the boards.
I walked over very carefully along with Dr. Dobson, thinking that Pete was going to jump in our faces, but as soon as we got close, we could see his eyes rolling back and the color in his face starting to change.
And then I saw that he was in a seizure, and I got down over him, and I held his tongue and kept his air passage open for about 20 seconds. And then he just writhed once like that. His body moved once, and it was gone. The man died in my arms.
And I'll never forget that very morning that as that ambulance went over to St. Luke's Hospital in Pasadena, California, the siren wasn't going, there was no red lights, no sound, and it wasn't going very fast. And as tears poured down my face, I kept saying, no, no, but down deep I knew. And it wasn't more than 20 minutes before the doctor came out and said, I'm sorry, guys.
Pistol Pete Maravich, the all-time scoring champ of college basketball who spent 10 years in the pros, died as he lived, playing basketball. He was only 40 years old.
That wiped me out. I was out of it for about 6 months, I think, in another dimension. Because really, that's all I had was Pete.
It just doesn't make sense that a guy could go through the rigors of an NBA game, let alone an NBA season, and not manifest any kind of symptoms at all, and then all of a sudden in a pickup game have it explode.
At autopsy, he had only one coronary artery. Now, generally, you have 2 coronary arteries. But he was able to play professional and college basketball at the highest possible levels with no symptoms and no problems until much later in life. If you do remember some of Pete's background, there was some alcohol use at certain parts of his life. The official autopsy says that the single coronary artery led to some of the problems.
He never should have lived past his teens. That he died at 40 shocked us all. He was born, lived, and played so ferociously all those seasons with a badly damaged heart.
Most artists, when they are living, people don't recognize them and recognize their great talent until after they're gone. And I think this is what really happened to Pete Maravich.
I remember he used to tell me, he said, you know, when I die, you know, people will forget about me after a couple of weeks.
It seems like to me everybody wants to dwell on the sad times or depressed times. He had a good life. He had a great life. He did what he wanted. He played basketball. That was his love.
Pistol Pete brings back a lot of memories. I can remember when I was growing up, it was a household name, and I'm not that old.
I think Pete Maravich probably did as much for basketball as just about any big-time scorer ever has.
A lot of people don't know I used to work out with Pete Maravich when I was in college in the summertime, and so he helped prepare me for the pros.
I think Pete was the first superstar to play for the Hawks.
Going in the attic, you know, these past couple of years and reading article after article and how big he was and still is.
He revolutionized basketball during that time. You know, he was before his time.
Still, Pete was a pioneer.
He's almost larger in death now than he was in life.
He was so far ahead of his time that the way they play today is almost a mirror image of what he did.
His ball handling skills, his scoring ability was amazing.
And there's still some things he's done that I haven't seen people do today, so
It doesn't surprise me that he's bigger than he was.
There's plenty of players who worked on their games and did whatever they did to try to compare to the great Pistol Pete. He was an amazing player, amazing person. I'm excited to be a part of the night where we honor Pistol Pete. He's one of the greatest players to ever play the game.
Retiring the 44, Pistol Pete Maravich.
That's right.
Love that.
Well,
That's going to be. That
should have been done, did that.
Pistol Pete Maravich.
And as I was going off my bed, I reflected back when I was 19. I remembered a simple little prayer of forgiveness that someone know it's true, and I know where I'm going. I have a purpose, and I just want to share with people, not force the Bible on anybody. Everybody's got to make their choice in life. Adam and Eve had a choice. We have choices to make. And that's all I want people to know, that Christ can change your life. Totally. Not ritual, not ceremony, but totally. Individually, you can have great joy. You can live for Him and for your family.